Today on Locked On Rockies. It was a lot more fun when Trevor Story did that for the Rockies, not to the Rockies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 9th day of July in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find, like I said, your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, still in the right spot, you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies when you head over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and fire off your Rockies hot takes there. Be part of the show and make sure you're liking and subscribing to the videos. It's the best way and the easiest way to support the show. Today on the pod, we are going to talk about the Rockies getting blown out late yet again, and kind of the classic Kyle Freeland start. That's I feel like a very frustrating situation, not only for him, but for the complicated tale of the Kyle Freeland legacy, for example, is a I think this game kind of summarized, or at least feels like a prime example of Kyle Freeland, of a Kyle Freeland start, and what has happened to and what usually happens to him in these appearances. We'll also, of course, talk about Trevor Story having his first game really popping off against the Rockies after making his debut against the Rockies in the opening game. He then proceeds to do what Trevor Story does, hit the ball very well, and be a game changer in the ball game. And so we'll dive into all of that and more on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. And I think that's the place to start here is the Trevor Story revenge game. When you're talking about that's a sure, it would be nice to have a guy that can do what Trevor Story does in the lineup. And again, some of the numbers and the injury history reminds you that when that went down, and with Trevor Story's departure, it was different than the Arenado departure. When you saw it coming, the writing was on the wall. There was just no way that Trevor Story was going to be returning to the Rockies in free agency. And for the fact that the Rockies, sitting there and deciding not to trade him, instead opting for the draft pick there, it depends on who you ask, and it depends on who you look at there, on that philosophy there. But this was a moment again for another Rocky to step up and say, this is what you had. This is what was possible. And I think, again, the important context of Trevor Story is the fact that this is the first time that he's been healthy enough to play the Rockies. And this is one of the, longer stretches of baseball that he's played for the Red Sox here since signing that contract and since moving on for the Rockies. So in terms of feeling it a little bit, of regret, I think Trevor Story isn't necessarily one that has some of the same sting as others when you look at how things turned out. But that swing on that home run, man, that was Trevor Story. That's just what he does. He just saw that ball, and boy, did he not miss it. And that ball just got out in a hurry. And that's what, when old Rockies players, when former Rockies players do damage to the Rockies, especially when you're talking about a player of Story, and when we've seen Arenado do things, and DJ LeMahieu, these guys that were just the key pieces to the last successful Rockies team to be on other teams in different situations, and again, it hasn't panned out really postseason wise for any of them outside of maybe DJ, but DJ wasn't even really healthy enough to I think be on that playoff roster last year, if I recall correctly. But to see these guys just damage and punish the Rockies, it just helps. It helps stab the knife in a little bit further on games like this, and especially when you're thinking and looking at it in a game that just got out of hand in such a hurry, a game that was right go flying by because it was a pitcher's duel, and then before you know it, the Rockies are down 4. Now they're down 10. I mean, and it just happens in a span of 2 innings there. And I kind of mentioned this off the top there, a classic Kyle Freeland start where he's going toe for toe. He's having a great start. He's going right back in it. He's right in it with Bello there, who ends up going for the complete game. And then it just starts chipping away a little bit there. He can't get out of the inning, and then of course he's about to get out of it. He's about to avoid the big damage and avoid the 3 earned runs, but Trevor Story is able to fight off a ball off his old teammate Kyle Freeland and start the scoring and start the rally for the Red Sox there in the 6th. I mean, when you're talking about frustrating for Freeland, that start is basically just a summary of his entire career. Because again, when you look at the numbers, it's not really a bad start. 5 2/3, 4 hits, 3 earned, 6 strikeouts, and only 2 walks here. But it's oh man, it starts falling apart, starts coming apart, and it comes apart quickly, and it comes apart in a big damage dealing moment there. So he's not free of what happened there. He still allowed those 3 earned runs, but he got Trevor Story on that pitch, and of course it's Trevor Story who has enough to fight it off, get it to land softly in right field there, and bring in a couple of runs with 2 outs there after being successful on that. There's just, I feel like it's been a lot of moments and a lot of chances for Kyle Freeland. He will never escape the bad luck allegations in my books. And again, it's not to completely excuse performance or anything. It's not. Kyle Freeland this year is at a -0.1 WAR. He's 1-9 with a 5.4 and a 4.9 ERA over 83 innings pitched with a WHIP of 1.578. It's not like you can just completely ignore what the numbers are telling you, but those numbers are a little bit weird when you look deeper into it. There is some stuff that points to Kyle Freeland being a little bit more on the unlucky side. And again, a start that's not really that bad. A good offense started getting to him, and then the Red Sox have dominated the bullpen in the first game, and they dominated the bullpen in the second game. I mean, this was a moment where a good offense was able to continue to highlight and show off and do what they can do. They scored 9 runs in the opening game with 14 hits, and then they followed that up after being the pitcher duel to start, then before breaking it open here in the middle of this game with racking up another 11 hits and scoring 10 runs. The Rockies have been outscored 19-5 in this series. It's you can't just completely ignore or forgive Kyle Freeland as well in this situation, where you got to be able to get the outs. You got to be able to prevent the runs. But on the flip side, his offense once again did not do him any favors by continuing to get dominated. What just sucks about these series, and what sucks about when the Rockies go on like moments like that, and really just throughout this whole season, is the same thing I've talked about over and over again. Pitchers just dominate the Rockies. It doesn't matter who you are. If you are a starting pitcher, or really a pitcher at all, if you know that you can get some fastballs, if you know that you can command your stuff, you're going to get strikeouts. Another double-digit strikeout performance for the Rockies offense, who was held mostly hitless throughout most of the game. I think only having like 3 hits until late in that ball game, finishing with 5, including the home run from Hunter Goodman, which is at least a little bit thing to avoid the salt being fully thrown in the wounds. But to have a guy be able to hold you to 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 10 strikeouts, and only 1 walk throughout that one, for a guy that averages basically like 4 walks a game, 4 walks a start, that's a huge problem. That means, again, your pitch selection, your approach, your philosophy, everything that the Rockies are doing in order to prepare their hitters for the game is not working again. And again, this wasn't a guy that necessarily has been incredible this season. He has been good, certainly in Bello, with over 85 innings pitched here. But we're talking about a guy that is kind of on the scale of what the Rockies have seen in terms of pitchers this year and what they will see throughout the rest of the season. This isn't a guy that should be able to do what he did to the Rockies offense. But you're not that surprised, because this Rockies offense can't stop striking out. They can't find clutch hitting. They can't hit on the road. They can't hit at home. And it's, again, another example to point at and say, what is going on? Like when we're talking about sure competitive games, when we're talking about the Rockies offense having more extra base hits and having the better June and doing the things that they did, that's still not translating into scoring. The runs that they're not having monstrous offensive performances of late, and they're continuing to struggle with strikeouts, something that has continued to plague them year after year here during these 100-loss seasons. This is another example of the Rockies just feeling like this is why they're stuck in the mud. and that's what's it gets so irritating is it's just like, is it and I don't know, maybe I think maybe I'm looking at it as too much of a simplified way to just say, well, why aren't they able to go up to the dish in a more prepared fashion? Why aren't they able to go up there and avoid the strikeouts? What are we missing here? Because again, it just looks like other teams are in much better positions to be successful on offense against Rockies pitching. And maybe that's just talent-wise, I guess. Let's keep breaking it down here and looking ahead to the finale as the Rockies look to avoid a sweep. But it's another series loss for the Colorado Rockies right here on Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about it. When you have a service emergency, the pipe's leaking, you need a plumber right now, you call the first plumber, they don't answer. Well, did you wait around for them to call you back? No, you called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer, and it simplifies things. Instead of juggling multiple lines, multiple phones, business line, this line, who's calling who, did you handle that? Coworker of mine over there, oh, I thought you handled that. No. OpenPhone solves all of that. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more asking who's handling this. And the AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer again. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Rockies listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Locked On Rockies back with you here, breaking down another just frustrating game from the Colorado Rockies. And again, maybe it feels silly to be frustrated by the Rockies at this point and getting emotional about these things. But this games and series like this just reiterate and reestablish what we hear from the outside perspectives of what the Rockies are. They're that far behind. They don't embrace this. They don't look at this. They don't do this. They don't do these things. And when you keep hearing the amount of things that they don't do and how far behind they are and all these things, they get put on display here. And again, this is young guys. This is these are the, you can point to the inexperience of the Rockies roster, certainly, but we're still waiting for this team to continue to show that that what people say and what the outside perspective of them is false, is that it's not true, that it is, people can say what they want to say, but we know what we're doing. For you to just be constantly just what I think that's just the thing that makes it this season extra frustrating, is just that all that stuff that people were saying it has to be true. You can't be this ill prepared or this bad in certain areas. You can't continue to struggle at the rates and at the consistency and set all the bad history and do all the things that you do and not actually really think that it has to be that. So when you see what happens with the Rockies, and when you see the fact that the promotions and the changes that they've already made and some of the things that they've already done front office wise, and you doubt it, you're based in that. Because this is a Red Sox team that was, kind of finding them. They were right at 500, right? They're still right about at 500, 48 and 45 now. One game above 500 when this series started. And now they're starting to piece and find things and put things together and make the adjustments and start getting their offense rolling and considering what they need and figuring out what they need to do at the trade deadline and starting to go through and start breaking things down of how to build this team and the actual unit that it's going to be. Whereas the Rockies here, it just continues to be, where are you going? What are you doing? What is the impact of this? I kind of mentioned this a little bit yesterday. What really will this team, what can they do at the trade deadline in terms of being able to move the pieces that they have on the roster? How available are teams going to be for taking chances on Rockies players that still have a lot of pudding that needs to be proved, I guess is one way to put it. So I guess that's it's a weird example, but it just goes to show you that teams, better run teams and better organized teams, are able to kind of be able to make adjustments and do things in the middle of seasons, whereas the Rockies have to build something and hope and get lucky and kind of a whole mix of other things, instead of being like a normal baseball team that's able to kind of go through a season where you can go on a bad stretch, but you can rebound a little bit. It's just so many long, prolonged stretches of losing for the Rockies that they haven't been able to figure out a way to stop losing. It's amazing. I guess this doesn't really make any sense, and it's kind of a part of just a random rant thing of how to relate it to this. I mean, it's just looking at a franchise that always has that constant pressure to be successful, that has a fan base that holds the feet to the fire, that has these expectations of not only being good, but being championship good and being a contender and making sure you're doing the right moves. And for them to be the Red Sox have burned a lot of people, including a trade that they made this year. You know what I mean? I mean, the Red Sox are not immune from being an organization that has done some stuff that would, that Rockies fans can relate to and being a little bit fired up about it. I mean, look at the Mookie Betts trade, for example, and of course, Rafi Devers getting traded this year. So I don't necessarily know if that's the best example of what I was saying. I just look at I just look at these other teams and they at least just seem like there is some cohesion of an idea and a plan and a philosophy and things. And the Rockies just have been without an identity for not only these losing seasons, but since the playoffs anyway, since they started going on the downward trend, they haven't been successful in a lot of areas outside of, kind of a rarity where they were with that last year of Trevor Story, like really good at home, really, really good at home, but horrible on the road. And that was kind of the only thing derailing them from being a possibly fringe playoff contending team that year. But now to just end up in the state that they're in now. I mean, it's just amazing how quickly it got out of hand again. It's just amazing how quickly teams can just turn on just squish the bug and just throttle the Colorado Rockies to put up 10 in 2 innings for a game to go from basically being a snoozer in terms of offense into a just a dominant performance from the Red Sox offense, which we talked about their ability to do. They didn't do it at the beginning of the games, but this time, but they did it in 2 innings. They turned that offense, they crank it up to 100, and they just start throttling with you. And it's interesting, too, when you're comparing, parts of the lineup that do damage. This is the bottom half of the lineup doing most of the damage for the Red Sox in this game, tacking up 8 of the RBIs here out of the 10 RBI that happened there with Story, Rafaela, and Duran at the bottom there. And again, it's just and you just look at the Rockies side of things, and you're looking at another 3 strike. It's his 1,000th game for the Rockies. It's another 3 strikeout day for Ryan McMahon. It's another day in which almost every single member of the Rockies team has at least 1 strikeout. Only Bretton Doyle and Mickey Moniak, who we're going to have to keep an eye out there for what happened with him there as he got hit by the pitch and was not looking good when he came out of the game. So I guess I don't know if I don't feel like I made any strong points, or I don't feel like I said anything different. I guess it's just another game and another situation in which it wraps up where it just is that envy of just like, wow, There are other teams that can figure this out, or at least make in-season adjustments or make in-game adjustments and be able to do things. And it just is just another time where it just feels like the Rockies are just so far behind the 8 ball when it comes to being a competitive baseball team. That it's hard not to be distracted by, I guess. So a little random rant there, and again, no new information on that, but Rockies got another chance to avoid a sweep coming up tomorrow. 3 night games. It's kind of interesting there, but I guess it's because they got the day off on Thursday before the last series before the All-Star break against Cincinnati. And tomorrow, got to hold our breath because the Red Sox have gotten a lot of hits, and the Rockies starter to finish this game, this series up, has allowed a lot of them. We'll break it all down coming up next on today's episode. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, the beautiful lights of Fenway, the Rockies, there's been some great coverage about the Rockies and their connection to Fenway. Go check out what Patrick Lyons is writing there. But golf on the green or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. You're already watching the Rockies. You already have seen them strike out, all that. Why not make it a little more thrilling with FanDuel? You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. FanDuel has the opportunity for you to do something that I think is something you should look into if you are a sports gambler throughout the rest of the season. Opposing teams against the Rockies over on strikeouts. Time and time again, I feel like the Rockies have hit this. Not only is it losing for the Rockies, but if this might be something where you don't have to count on how the game finishes, because win or lose, those Rockies are going to be striking out a lot. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and even makes regular season games feel like must-watch events. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com. Place that $5 bet, win that first $5 bet, and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open that FanDuel app. Head to FanDuel.com and get started today. Locked On Rockies here, segment number 3, wrapping things up for today. But I don't know. If you're listening to the show, if you're kind of like you're like, hey, we got to look at something else. What can we find? What are the things? What are the things that you've been looking at in this series? What are the last couple of series telling you? What are you wanting to see from the Rockies here in their final series against Cincinnati before the All-Star break? What do you just need to start seeing for you to start building confidence back up in yourself and where the Rockies are at to avoid the worst season of all time? It's going to be a tough one to avoid the sweep tomorrow when we're looking at the matchup here, when we're looking at the pitching matchup especially. Antonio Senzatella is not a good matchup for the Rockies against the Red Sox, who, like I mentioned, have outscored them 19-5 in this series, back-to-back days of double-digit hits for the Red Sox in this series, and now they're going up against Antonio Senzatella, who's got the 3 wins, but he's also rocking the 6.57 ERA, a whip of 1.90, and allowed 132 hits to only 46 strikeouts. And the big kicker, 32 walks to 46 strikeouts is a big problem there when you're talking about Antonio Senzatella. And of course, the big number as well, 14 home runs allowed for him. And so when you're talking about the Rockies putting up somebody that is not going to be a good matchup for them at all, it's going to come down to Antonio Senzatella hitting his spots and being able to induce the weak contact and the weak ground balls that you're hoping for and what you paid him to do and have been banking on and hoping with his entire career. And you're going to have to hope for the Rockies offense to come alive and be able to match this Red Sox offense that has led the way and been dominant. But it's going to be tough against Lucas Giolito, who's 5-1 with a 3.66 ERA, a 1.28 whip over 66 innings pitched. He's allowed only 64 hits, struck out 58, 21 walks in that time, and 8 home runs allowed. So kind of, again, the same type of thing we're looking at here with this Red Sox pitching staff is walks can be a problem. They weren't they should have been a problem in game 2. They were not a problem in game number 2. These are Red Sox pitchers that'll give you free opportunities. But I'm more looking at the fact that it's that strikeout at 58 right there. With 66 innings pitched so far for Giolito and 58 strikeouts in that time, I'm thinking that he's going to be licking his chops and being able to go after this Rockies offense and get and hunt those strikeouts like we've seen time and time again. This is a real tough matchup for the Rockies, and this will be something or a situation here where you could start sitting there and say, have one of those eyebrow raising wins where you're like, okay, you're avoiding it, but it's going to take everything. It's going to take a complete effort here, and I know I'm hyping them up. I'm hyping the Red Sox up like an undefeated baseball team on a roll here, but that's 5 wins in a row now for the Red Sox. This is an offense that's rolling. This is an offense that that loves to jump out ahead early, get after you. And Antonio Senzatella is the perfect type of a profile for the Boston Red Sox to get to go after and do damage against. This is a game in which you're going to have to hope. We'll see who ends up being in the starting lineup and what, if there are any changes or anything like that. But this is a situation where you need your young guys to be able to make an adjustment here and get themselves into a position where they can be successful on offense. Hunter Goodman, hopefully, breaking out of a little bit of a slump there and getting himself back into, not only the RBI and the home run counter, but just another hit on the board and keep building up that momentum a little bit. Tyler Freeman able to continue his on base streak there with a ninth inning single there. The ninth inning looks pretty good for the Rockies there. I mean, I know but when you've seen the same pitcher and he's thrown 90 plus pitches and it's the end of a complete game, you're probably gonna be able to run into a couple more that you weren't able to do so. But again, this is a situation in which Ryan McMahon got to step it up, got to improve here. If you're going to continue to turn to the Arcias and stuff, they got to be able to perform. Ryan Ritter as well. There are too many guys that just are not contributing to this lineup, not getting any sort of impact here or having any sort of productive outs. And we're now looking at, in the Rockies lineup yesterday, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in the Rockies lineup that are batting under 250 in the starting lineup for the Colorado Rockies yesterday. Out of that group, the highest OBP is Ryan McMahon at 310, and a 373 was slugging there for Ryan McMahon being the highest in that. I'm sorry, Michael Toglia 2 points higher at 375. The bottom half of the lineup has just been atrocious for the Colorado Rockies, not only in this series, but throughout the whole season. And that's a massive problem. And again, it's going to be going through the ringer for some of these guys. It's going to be going through the adjustments. It's going to be, seeing how they can handle things, and, how will Ritter and such, how can they grow and what type of adjustments. But it goes back to my original kind of main point, and the thing that's just been sticking with me for so long. It's just like, what are you doing to get these guys in a position to be successful? We've heard about it. We've heard of it. You got to flush it and all this stuff. We've heard that thing. But what is going to change in the cage? What is going to change with the film? What is going to change in terms of on-field prep for these guys to be able to make the adjustments and start having better at-bats and more impactful at-bats? But the jury will be very much out still on tomorrow's game. It's going to be a tough one for the Rockies here. By tomorrow, I mean today, of course. And we'll see how it goes with Antonio Senzatella on the bump, trying to avoid the sweep as the Rockies look to salvage another series and try to keep shipping away and avoid the worst season in MLB history. Folks, that is going to do it for us today on Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB with Locked On MLB Game Night as well. Got you covered with all your coverage from around the diamond, around the league, breaking out all the games for you there. And of course, if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, and Buffs, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.